Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 7 Studio Avenue Holiday Special. I'm your host, Jeff. Joining me are Brandon, Jalen, and special guest Sam.
He's not special.
Special.
Special in a different
But
way.
wow, we just experienced something, folks.
That was certainly special.
So, as you know, we here at the pod are big fans of Star Wars,
As
and
he's
so
wearing a Star Wars
we
shirt right
decided to get in the holiday spirit, we would watch the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I would just like to point out, I did not totally agree to this, but you know, as a Star Wars fan, you know, you kind of feel obligated to watch it.
So,
It was not a mistake.
what was your thoughts, Jalen? I want to hear each of you give a one-word description of your thoughts.
Honestly, you're telling me to give one word, but I'm speechless. Like, there's not
That's
one
your
word
speechless.
that can encompass that
Understandable.
movie. The only thing I was gonna say is if you want to push your mental boundaries, watch this movie.
Oh, you want my one word? LSD. That's all I could like. It's like, were they on it or what was going on in that? Jeez.
I can't. I'm with Jalen on this one. I can't really describe it in one word. It was just weird.
So, yeah.
That's the word. It's just weird.
So, I forced myself to watch this a couple years ago because it is on YouTube. If you want to experience this, just give it a quick search on YouTube.
Shh! Don't let George Lucas know. He'll take it off. Oh my
But so anyway, definitely watch it with friends because as entertaining as the holiday special was, the most entertaining part was looking at Sam and Jalen's horrified faces.
Dude, Jalen became an emotionless robot halfway through.
I think to give you some insight, if you haven't seen the Star Wars special, which I imagine most of you, if not all of you, have not. Let's just start with like the beginning of the movie. The first scene, I want to start off by, it's a story about Wookiees, like Chewbacca himself.
It follows Chewbacca's family.
Yes.
Do you remember what his family's names were?
Itchy is the grandpa.
Grandpa.
Yes, so there's Chewbacca's father, Itchy. There's also his son, Lumpy, and his
Lumpy.
wife, Mala. Out of all of them, I think Lumpy has the most horrifying and comedic faces.
They all look just so weird. Like weird. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just so weird.
So yeah, a large part of this story follows them and their conversations.
And
but
the interesting thing is that they have no subtitles, and if you know Star Wars, you know that Wookiees make these weird groans.
So just imagine, you know, you're watching this a bunch of bipedal things growling at each other.
it has the set of almost sort of like a sitcom.
It was
That's what's baffling.
It
And
was
that's
like
what's-
2 minutes straight of not
It's
understanding.
very unsettling because you know the Star Wars universe has this whole aesthetic to it, and then you see like a regular setting as if, like Jeffrey said, it's a sitcom from the 70s. It's really, really unsettling, and it makes you feel weird watching it. There's these several sequences throughout the movie where singing happens. One of the first musical sequences involves these weird hologram things that are real people.
It's like a weird circus performance, and there's juggling, and oh my gosh.
And it has the thing for me
we're getting
too
there.
is that it has no place in the Star Wars universe. It's like who are they trying to like get to? What
is
was
the
their
audience?
audience?
So
Who was the
we
audience?
should clarify this. It's modeled sort of based on the old variety shows where there's a short musical segment and it's supposed to be entertaining, but the only thing about it that's entertaining is how utterly ridiculous it is. I remember, Sam, at one point, you just threw your arms in the air and went, "There's no subtitles!"
Oh yeah, this was like 5 minutes into the special.
There's also,
not
like,
to mention that, but then you start to wonder, okay, what's the plot of this story? And
there is none!
there is this
You get to the
very
end,
the main
Spoiler alert!
the main plot is like this weird thing that's strung together like very loosely because of all these random scenes in between that involve animation, like musical like singing, different locations, and it's really only about Chewbacca and Han Solo trying to get home to Chewbacca's family on this holiday called Life Day. It's so
It's bizarre.
I can't even.
They're contacting various Star Wars characters, the ones you know and love. They have like a separate TV projector thing for each one of them.
And all of them look like they don't want to be there, especially Han.
Harrison, or has like the traitor guy refers to him, Han.
Like I don't even know what to say. There's multiple like Jalen said, music numbers where characters will sit at a screen for 5 minutes just staring at it.
There were a number of times where we all just looked at each other and thought, "This is still going?"
My favorite one was the grandpa one because nobody knew what was going on while the grandpa was having the time of his life.
The whole time I'm watching this, like, it's natural for us as movie watchers to just try to kind of in our minds think where's the movie going or put things together, and nothing falls into place, and it feels so wrong to just see some of the scenes from the movie. And as well as I'm watching and I'm thinking, I really I would pay a large amount of money to be able to interview the people who produced, directed, and wrote this movie, because I want to know what was going through their mind and what drugs they were on when they made this movie.
Right?
So yeah, apparently, like, the main idea of a story following a family of Wookiees, that was George Lucas's original idea, and the writer of the holiday special, Bruce Vilanch, was very concerned about this and concerned about the lack of subtitles, but Lucas would not budge on his vision. Reading directly from the Wikipedia page, folks. But so, yeah, this is... And also, it's important to remember that this was the second ever Star Wars thing to come out. So there was the first Star Wars, it came out, people loved it.
New Hope.
And this is what followed it. Like, I am absolutely shocked that people saw this and didn't immediately disregard everything Star Wars.
Well, at least it made the third movie way better than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, that's why Empire was so critically acclaimed.
When you're coming off of something like the Christmas special.
Yeah. Our producers just reminded us, this only aired one time, and immediately afterwards, George Lucas was incredibly embarrassed by it.
I would be too.
How did he not see the movie beforehand?
He has said that if he had enough time, he would go through the world with a hammer and destroy every copy of it.
And now it's on YouTube.
And according
I
to
am so glad the internet still has a hold of this.
I know,
also,
right?
according
It's
to
magic,
rumors, Carrie Fisher requested a copy of this from Lucas, and she would play it at parties when she wanted people to leave.
Oh, wait. No, we need to talk about the most important part of this special, where they decide to have an animated bit as, like, a cartoon show in it.
Yeah, it's this weird part where... So, Chewbacca's son Lumpy is watching an animated show. First of all, he's got headphones, which is just a weird sight.
And they're square. They're not even circle. They have, like, the speaker in the middle, and then, like, the square. It's very strange,
Again,
I must say.
none of it matches the Star Wars aesthetic, because they hadn't established a Star Wars aesthetic. Everything is off. But so back to this cartoon. First of all, it's weird that there's a cartoon based on the adventures of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Chewbacca, when those are characters that exist in this world. Jalen pointed out that it could be like rebel propaganda, but where are they getting the time to make these? Also, they treat it as though the story that they tell is supposed to be canon.
Yeah.
Jalen, you made an interesting point about the animation.
Yeah, the animation, it just looks weak. I mean, I'm not that familiar with tons of animation from the 70s, but I know, like, in the 80s, Transformers was very popular, and Transformers looks way better than this show. This animated short, essentially, has, like, no shading. The eyes are, like, milky almost. Like, it looks as almost like they're being, I don't know, like,
For the characters
possessed?
that
I don't
have
even know how to
eyes,
describe it.
It really
Chewbacca's
dips into
have, like-
the uncanny valley.
If you're someone who plays video games, you know that the different games play at different frames per second, and 60 frames per second is a pretty smooth game, whereas 30 frames per second is relatively normal right now, but is a little bit slower. This animation looks like it's 5 to 10 frames per second. It moves very awkwardly, and it's
very stilted.
It was like a really fast slideshow.
I think any amateur animator nowadays could make that easily in like one night, honestly.
And
Yeah.
when they're first learning,
This
they probably
is
make it.
significant, however, because it's the first appearance of Boba Fett. What do you guys feel about that? Because I have mixed feelings about it.
I mean,
Why does he have an eye on the top of his head? Like,
yeah,
drawn
that's
on
the
his
real
helmet?
question right now.
I think that's supposed to be the dent in his helmet.
Is it? That's a really weird.
I
looking
saw a
dent.
different
No, because
dent.
you can
That's a whole eye.
you can definitely make out like a distinct dent on the side of his helmet.
Yeah.
What they're talking about was like the thing that was
Right in the
right
middle.
above the
Oh,
T.
I
visor.
don't
eye,
even
his
know.
chakra.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering why he punctuated every sentence with "friend."
Because he's your friend and not a double agent.
What I do like how is though, so there's this new Star Wars series called The Mandalorian that's coming out. One of the set photos reveals a rifle that's based on the rifle that we see in this animation. So it's a nice little Easter egg. But again, it's
I
just
mean,
so
for,
weird.
for better or worse, I mean,
Have you seen
the
Han
people
Solo's-
that made the show obviously had to go back and find and watch that to to find that. So make of that what you will.
So I feel like we should go through the different variety skits, if you can call them that, and rate them. So there's the circus one we talked about, a cooking segment, Itchy's weird VR scene.
Wait, are we talking about the times where the troopers also went into their house and like destroyed everything?
That's not
Wait,
variety.
can I just say something about the cooking segment real quick? If you have a kid, or if you are a kid listening to this podcast, and you watch that scene, I guarantee you have nightmares. It is so unsettling, and it just devolves into this crazy. I can't even describe it. It starts off with a man playing a woman with this like weird wig and this a lot of makeup,
Kind of like Medea.
cooking like a normal
and it gradually gets
cooking
faster.
show from real life,
Is this supposed
and then
to
it
be
gets
funny?
more intense, and all of a sudden her wig starts to fall off, and then she has 4 arms, and it's like really unsettling.
I'm pretty sure that they did that all in one take too. I'm pretty sure her wig didn't intentionally fall off. The guys that were directing it at the back, they were probably just like, oh, keep going. This is fine. This is what we want. Like, it legitimately looks like they did it all in one take.
The
And
kids will love it.
didn't look back at any of this thing. Like how did they go through this and then look back at it and go, yeah, that's fine, that's all right, we can release this. Like,
Lucasfilm had almost a year and a half. They had exactly almost a year and a half to make this film.
They had a year and a
A year and a
half,
half is enough
and it
time.
turned out like this. There's
What a
also
fantastic end.
there's another
Wait.
segment where it's just Lumpy watching a step-by-step program of how to build his little transmitter thing. In my opinion, that's the worst one.
I'm gonna be real. I fell asleep at that part.
I can understand that.
You know, guys, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Unpopular opinion. Maybe this is just a very complex movie with several thematic messages and metaphors backing it up, and we just don't understand it because we're not smart enough.
that's wishful thinking.
You know what? You know
There-
what?
And then to top it off, there's a sequence at the Mos Eisley Cantina. Remember that? Remember how B. Arthur was running it? Neither do I, but she isn't here.
Well,
And she sings a song about like goodbye, but not whatever. It's
Good night, but
no,
not
you're
goodbye.
good night, but not goodbye.
And it
technically wasn't the last one, though.
It feels like the songs, they just go on forever. When you think they're about to end, they just start up and keep going and going and going.
just like the end of the movie,
There's a
where
song-
there's another song in between
There's
worlds.
a song
It's
between
like-
there's a song with an actual band, correct, Jeff?
Yeah, Jefferson
Yeah.
Starship, who was like an actual musician at that time. And it's portrayed as like this hologram thing, which is okay. But an Imperial officer watches it. Like, they use that to distract the Imperial officer. I feel like we should talk about the Imperials in this movie because, again, hadn't established any of it. Sam, you made an interesting observation about the blasters.
What? So on the Stormtrooper blasters on the E11s, they have like a little stock on the side, but in no
I think I always assumed that was the clip.
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
So
the
they're-
clip.
they're
And
holding
they're
it
holding it by
like-
the clip.
They're holding it, like a handle. Instead of holding it underneath the barrel, like in every other Star Wars ever, they're holding it sideways by the clip, and it just feels off.
It
every
looks
time.
wrong too.
There's also the little Imperial ID rankings are off. They're the wrong colors.
there's Death Star troopers that
With the
are
big-
on
with the big-
Kashyyyk.
Do you mean Kazook? So there was a moment where an Imperial comes on the screen and says, The Empire has now declared martial law all across the planet of Kazook. And Sam, you and I turned to each other and we're just like, Kazook?
I honestly thought, I wasn't sure if that was a mistake or not,
I mean,
or if that was intentional.
It could have been before George Lucas named the planet, but it was just very jarring to hear Kazook.
You know, I
Bless you.
think in the future, maybe when I have kids and a wife and like, I have a family of my own, maybe it won't make it a holiday tradition, yeah.
You
And
tie
just
them down and
every
you
year we'll
brainwash
watch
But so-
the Star Wars Christmas.
So eventually, I'm sure you all have been on the edge of your seats, but don't worry. Han and Chewie eventually make it to Life Day. Han sort of throws a stormtrooper off a cliff.
No. The stormtrooper trips over his gun off of the railing, and that, like, he could have kicked the gun.
And you
like,
can-
it doesn't make any sense.
And
I'm
it's
losing my
supposed to be
mind.
this like emotional reunion, but Harrison Ford just did not want to be there. You could see the regret in his eyes, like, this is what I'm going to be known for.
Yes,
So
that
during the
fantastic
emotional
hug.
reunion, it's like, Lumpy, Mala, you guys are a part of my family too. But I gotta get going. And then he and Chewbacca have the most awkward hug in cinematic history.
And they look like
when
they're
you
totally about to kiss.
when you see this, it makes you realize, like, oh, so this is why Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to be killed off in Episode 5. Like, it all starts to make sense.
But so after Han leaves, they begin the Life Day celebration, which consists of each of them holding up an orb. They're then transported to what I can only assume is the world between worlds. For those who aren't major Star Wars fan, it's just this weird interdimensional thing that it definitely wasn't their intention at the time, but looking back, it's a fun thing to joke about. It looks like they're just transported into the middle of space. They're just surrounded by blackness and stars, and they're all in these weird red robes, and then they walk in a single file line into a light, and then they're just in a room full of tons of other Wookiees in red robes. But also, C-3PO and R2-D2 are there. For some reason!
Why not, right? I mean,
oh, guess what? There's more people there too.
And then Han and Luke and Leia show up, even though Han had just left 2 minutes previously.
and then Leia's just rubbing Chewbacca really strangely, even though
While
he
they
has
sing a
wife.
weird song about Life Day.
Leia has a musical number at the end, and it's as bad as it sounds.
Dude, we got there, and then Sam was like, how many minutes are left? And then Austin was like, 6. And he's like, there's 6 minutes of this song, because prior to that, the credits played in the beginning of the special.
But so, oh my god, it's just, it is a miracle that Star Wars turned out as well as it did when you look back at this.
No, that's why it didn't turn out so well, because that was their lowest point, and they were like, we can't do any worse than this, right, guys?
But so, I have always had the philosophy that the worst a movie can do is bore me. As long as it reaches a level of insanity that is humorous, I'm fine. As long as it's entertaining. This walks that line very, very delicately.
There's there's points where you're looking at the screen and just awe, like you're literally speechless. You don't know what to say, and it's hilarious. And then there's other points where it's just so boring. And
Yeah,
like,
it goes from like side-splitting laughter to just making you contemplate your life choices.
do
Like,
that all
what
the
have
time.
I done that has led me to here? Why am I doing this?
Because,
Overall, I would recommend it though.
yeah, I would recommend it just for the experience, honestly.
it's only worth watching
If you have friends.
Yeah.
You if you can make it through the Star Wars Christmas special on your own,
You can make it through election.
without stopping, I don't know what to say. I mean,
there were points where I was laughing, and then there were points that were, like, so boring, we were just looking at each other, like,
Again,
questioning what was
the
wrong.
best part was seeing your guys' just absolute frustration and anger to this.
it's honestly difficult. It's hard to believe that this film actually exists. People got together, pitched this, wrote the script for it, directed and filmed it, and were like, "This is fine, guys.
This is some quality
This
product
is,
right
this
here.
is good."
So who is your favorite character? I think Lumpy might have been mine, just because he's so insane.
Lumpy's definitely my favorite character.
Yeah.
He makes all these weird noises and his facial expressions.
Yeah.
We'll be sure to throw up some great stills from this on the 7 Studio Ave Instagram, which is at 7 Studio Ave. So be sure to check that out. So at least this makes some form of sense.
Yeah. And mostly, like, the parts that, like, I just had this very depressed look on my face when there were just these parts that were extended. Like the one circus part where it was like 5 minutes in, and I'm just like, why isn't it ending?
It's really surreal. It's surreal. It's one of those
It's a
things
lucid dream.
that talking about it and just listening to it won't do it justice. You have to see it for yourself to understand.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts? Should we make...
We should give it a rating out of 10.
I don't think you can.
No.
This
This
exists on a different.
Yeah.
This exists on an entirely different
We're not giving
plane
this a
of
rating, yeah.
cinema.
I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Just for the
Even
experience.
beyond like the stretches of The Room. The Room is like known as
God,
the
dude.
worst movie ever made, but at least that has some semblance of a followable plot. You can look at it and go, okay, I kind of understand what's happening, because it looks like our world, but through a weird lens. This is so strange because it's like looking at the Star Wars world, but through a kaleidoscope, upside down, while you are also on LSD.
I think that sums it all up right there, Jeff. I just want to, before we end, wish everyone a happy holidays. Hope you enjoy your time. Are happy,
Merry
spend time
Christmas,
with family.
Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus,
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays, basically.
Happy
That would probably be
holidays.
the easiest way to
and
say.
a very happy Life Day from all of us here at the studio.
Does anyone want to shamelessly plug before we go?
Nope. For the holidays, we don't plug. See you
Yeah,
in 7.
Exactly.
Spend some time with your family.
Yeah.
Listen to this with a friend. Make them suffer through the holiday special with you.
Plug in your decorations. All right.
This is such an experience that you and whoever you watch it with will share a bond beyond comprehension.
See you guys next week.
See you in 7.
See you in 7.